In today's You Teach lesson, the topic is Social Cognitive Theory by Chuck Miller. We have 3 learning objectives today. 1, we're going to define the theory itself. 2, we're going to look at the historical overview. And 3, we're going to talk about the 5 basic factors and assumptions that social cognitive theory are developed on. Pictured here is Albert Bandura. Bandura is a leading psychologist of the 21st century who is recognized as the pioneer of social cognitive theory. According to Bandura's theory, humans learn through the observation, imitation, and modeling of other people. The theory bridges both behavior and cognitive learning theories by focusing on the importance of the learner's attention, memory, and motivation. Definition. Let's define social cognitive theory. According to Warfolk, she defines the theory as a theoretical perspective that focuses on how people learn by observing others and how they eventually assume control over their own behavior. They do this by taking into account the cognitive factors such as beliefs, self-perception, and expectations. Let's take a look at the historical developments that social cognitive theory kind of went through. It's 3 stages. The basis of Bandura's social cognitive theory made its first appearance in 1963 when Bandura and another psychologist, Richard Walters, published their social learning and personality development concept. It was originally called observational learning theory. Bandura built upon the social learning theory in 1977 with the publication of his self-efficacy concept, which highlights the importance of self-belief in learning. You actually believe in yourself when you're learning. Then, in 1986, Bandura solidified his theory with the publication of Social Foundations of Thought and Action, a Social Cognitive Theory. It was at this point that Bandura made the distinction between social learning to social cognitive theory, stating that the personal factors, such as cognitive processes, as well as social factors like behavior and a person's environment, shape the way a person learns. Basic assumptions of cognitive theory. Number 1, the first assumption: people can learn by watching others. Social cognitive theorists believe that aside from personal trial and error, people can learn from observing others or models. Models can be either real people that are observed by the learner, live models, or they can be symbolic models, people real or fictitious that are observed indirectly, like characters from a book or a television show. An example of modeling can be seen in Bandura's experiment, the Bobo doll.
The model pummeled the doll with the mallet. Model pummeled the doll with the mallet, flung it in the air, kicked it repeatedly, threw it down and beat it. It was once widely believed that seeing others vent aggression would drain the viewer's aggressive drive. As you can see, exposure to aggressive modeling is highly cathartic.
Alright, so Bandura argued that learning through observation is not based wholly on positive or negative reinforcement. In other words, learning on the basis of pleasure or pain outcomes is too simplistic in a view. Bandura's social cognitive theory argues that instead, people learn through the observation of other people's behaviors, like the child did with the learned behaviors by watching the model beat up the doll in the video, which leads them to form their own ideas of how the new behavior is performed, which can be used then as a guide for the future. Assumption number 2. Learning is an internal process that may or may not change behavior. Social cognitive theorists, unlike behavior theorists, don't see learning as a change in behavior. Instead, they see it as a process that happens in the brain which may not show up in the learner's behavior. Number 3. Assumption number 3. Behavior is directed towards particular goals. Like cognitive theorists, social cognitive theorists recognize the value of internal cognitive processes like memory. However, they also recognize the importance of motivation and mental goals. A person's belief as to whether or not he or she is able to reach his or her own goals is known as self-efficacy. Self-efficacy is central to Bandura's concept of social cognitive learning, emphasizing the importance of a person's own self-beliefs about their capabilities to learn something new. The theory suggests that having self-efficacy will impact a person's willingness to attempt to do and learn new things, and the effect and the persistence they will apply to their learning. Therefore, Bandura believes that having self-efficacy is key to successful learning. Assumption number 4. Behavior eventually becomes self-regulated. Self-regulation behavior is initiated, monitored, and evaluated by the individual to accomplish his or her own goals. An example of this is when we're younger, or when children are younger, adults tend to set the goals for them, and then they show or model them how to meet them. But as they get older, learners start to take command of their own lives and set their own goals. Assumption number 5. Reciprocal determinism. Bandura's social cognitive theory contradicts the traditional behaviorist school of thought, which believes that a person's behavior is a direct product of his environment. Instead, Bandura argues that instead of being a simple case of cause and effect, behavior can also determine an environment. Therefore, the effects of behavior and environment are reciprocal and interlinked. In the social cognitive theory, behavior, environment, and cognitive factors interact with each other much like the points on a triangle. And here we have an example or a diagram of all three of those and the way they're interacting with each other. Okay, let's go ahead and review the basic assumptions again. We have learning occurs by observing. Learning is internal. Behavior is goal-directed. Behavior can be self-regulated. And reinforcement has indirect as well as direct effects. I hope this lesson kind of clears up some of the thoughts or questions that you had on social cognitive theory. Thank you.